So with diabetes, it's really important to eat healthy, balanced meals in order to manage your diabetes, keep well, and also live well. So a balanced meal will be ensuring that we are meeting all the essential nutrients and also the essential food groups that we should be eating. And this would include ensuring that we have a balance between the different food groups, including carbohydrates, fruits and vegetables, protein, dairy, and also essential fats as well. But it's also good to remember that these foods need to be eaten in certain proportions, and also in order to keep our weight in check, and making sure that we are living well, keeping well, feeling well. So sometimes it can be really challenging to stick to healthy eating advice, having a healthy diet, following the advice that has been given by your healthcare professionals. And this can happen because of many reasons. There are lots of things in life that come in the way. For example, the way we live with our families, our children, our work. Many secondary environmental factors come into place as well. And even sometimes when people are traveling, it's very difficult to eat at the right times, get the right type of foods that we want to eat. One of the ways to overcome this is try to plan your meals of the day, trying to be a little bit more organized in knowing what you're going to eat, whether you are working away or working shift work. It's always a good idea to try to take food from home so you know exactly what's in it, what you're going to be eating. And another way is to making sure that you are telling people about your diabetes, talking to them about the importance of wanting to eat healthy, especially when it comes to festivals or social events. It can be very difficult for people living with diabetes to always having to remind people about that they can eat or not eat certain foods. So including yourself in conversations about how to cook better, how to shop better, how to prepare meals with the family or people you live with. Pakistani foods are known to be very nourishing, wholesome and balanced diets. They consist of a high intake of protein foods such as meat, chicken, fish, legumes, bulk beans, pulses, lots of fruits and vegetables, lots of fresh ingredients. A lot of families cook every day and some families cook twice a day. They also prepare their own chapatis, their breads. Everything is made at scratch. So if we think about it, this is actually very healthy. People tend to stay away from processed meals, frozen meals or takeaways. So everything is actually prepared from scratch. The only advice is that people generally tend to use a lot more oil and salt in their cooking. And this is something that we see in a lot of families which historically have taken on cultural ways of cooking, and we continue that cooking practices over the generations. But if we can teach our children or our families to try to gradually reduce the amount of oil, and one of the key tricks that I say to people is, why not measure the amount of oil and actually see how much oil is going into your curry or your rice. And that actually gives you a real understanding of maybe this is too much oil. So the advice we give is maybe to aim for about a teaspoon per person per dish. And that gives you a guide of how much less oil we actually need in our cooking to actually prepare the meals. The second thing is actually tasting your food before you add any salt. Some people have a habit of adding extra salt in before they even taste things, or they might even be adding salt to meals that have been cooked. So why not replace it with other spices, herbs, lemon, ginger, chilies, rather than adding in that extra salt. And the last advice is it's always a good idea to put in side salads, things like raita, yogurt dips, chop in some vegetables. Always try to add in extra vegetables to your sides or even to your mains, to your rice. And this is a good way to bulk up your meals, also making them more wholesome, more nutritious, and increasing that fiber that is really, really important in the diet. Because we generally see that a lot of the Pakistani meals, they are generally tend to be towards white rice, white chapati atta, and gradually we can change this to more whole grain or whole wheat or brown rice would be a better option for the families as well. It can be very challenging and difficult for people with diabetes to having to tell people that they need to reduce the oil and salt content of foods. Also changing food practices like eating less of the red meats and trying to incorporate more fruits and vegetables in your diet. But this again has to be done in conversation and discussion with family members, that the importance of that it's not just the person living with diabetes that should be changing, it is the whole family that could also benefit from healthy eating. These changes can take a while to build into your life, but if we stick to them and try to continue with them, they're more likely to become a long-term change. It's always very exciting to wanting to change everything, but writing down a few simple goals for yourself and setting some targets. So for example, if you're going to reduce your portion of carbohydrates in your diet, might be an easy one to start off with, because changing foods or changing what you're going to eat can be quite challenging at times for people. Just making small changes. So one of the easiest things I say to people is by looking at your portions, just gradually reducing your portions of maybe carbohydrates, the portion of protein you're eating, or even how much oil you're adding to your food. So not necessarily changing the foods that you eat, not necessarily changing the taste, but reducing the portions can make a significant difference to your diabetes, but actually is probably one of the easiest things that we can do. So fasting is a time which is around Ramadan, which is for 30 days, and really something which is close to Muslims around the world, and particularly for people living with diabetes. They don't want to be excluded in this celebration or this very festive period of Ramadan, which is celebrated by the whole family. And often we find that people living with diabetes feel excluded, or they don't know what to do, how to fast safely. So the best advice to give to people who are wanting to fast is maybe speak to your healthcare professionals, talk to them a month before you are planning to fast, review your medication, see if there's any adjustments that need to be made. But the most important thing is that you do follow a healthy, balanced diet during Ramadan as well. Often we find during Ramadan, people generally tend to eat a lot more celebratory foods, which are high in fat, high in sugars. And for people living with diabetes, these can be challenging times because they don't want to be excluded, but at the same time, they know it's going to impact their diabetes. So maybe just think about the portions that you're eating. Talk to your family and say, can we reduce the amount of sugar intake? Can we reduce the amount of fried foods that are being prepared? We see with a lot of the Pakistani community that a lot of dishes are prepared. So whether it's starters, there might be samosas, pakoras, there might be spring rolls, and then there's things like kebabs, fried chicken. And then following on to that, there will be a meal after the prayer, which is again a quite elaborate meal, because fasting in the summer months can be quite challenging for people fasting for such long days, and the meals generally tend to be very elaborate. So for people living with diabetes, it's always a good idea to think about more slow release carbohydrates, so more whole grain, whole wheat, to keep them going for longer. Also avoiding any highly processed sugary foods, so things like cakes, biscuits, mithais, and things like baklavas, which can be quite significantly high in sugar. And then lastly, ensuring that they do drink plenty of water while in the non-fasting hours, because people living with diabetes are at risk of dehydration, thrombosis, and also it's really important that you are testing during the month of Ramadan, because living with diabetes, it can have, you don't know whether your sugars are going high or low, and that's why it's really important to speak to your healthcare professional before Ramadan, whether you are safe to fast, whether you need to be testing, whether you need any adjustments in your medication, and you need to have a review on the type of foods that you should be eating during the month of fasting. So physical activity is just as important as following a healthy diet, and I think some people probably ignore the advice around physical activity as they do take on the dietary advice. And the importance and the benefits of physical activities are so huge that it's so important to keep reminding people living with diabetes that there are huge benefits of exercise. And even by doing very small amounts of exercise, it actually can have a huge impact on their diabetes, their blood pressure, cholesterol, their ability to walk, their joints, etc. But more so on their mental health and their well-being as well. And what we see in a lot of our South Asian communities and the Pakistani community is that many people, they don't take part in any activity because they feel it's a struggle to go to the gym. But what they don't realize, that even basic movement, so moving more at home, doing some more cleaning, ironing, gardening, even washing the car or going out for a short walk after your meals, is considered as a form of physical activity. And if you feel like you're someone who doesn't like to take part alone or doesn't have the motivation, there are many community groups who are running ladies classes, yoga classes, walk in the park. Volunteers are taking groups of people for a walk who are living with diabetes. So you talk about your diabetes, plus you get the physical activity. So huge benefits of doing exercise or physical activity. And if you're not aware of what's happening locally, it's a good idea to find out from your healthcare professionals what is available. So please do access what is available so that you do benefit from doing more exercise as well.